Welcome to the You're Not Crazy podcast, hosted by Jessica Knight, a certified life coach who specializes in healing from narcissistic and emotional abuse. This podcast is intended to help you identify manipulative and abusive behavior, set boundaries with yourself and others, and heal the relationship with yourself so you can learn to love in a healthy way. You can connect with Jessica and find additional resources, content, and coaching at emotionalabusecoach.com.
Hello, and thank you for being here. Before we dive in, I want to go through the fine print and share how we can work together. Because healing from this kind of pain takes a lot more than time. It takes the right kind of support. I work with people entangling themselves from emotionally abusive relationships, coercive control, trauma bonds, high conflict co-parenting dynamics, high conflict divorce, and if you're at the beginning of the road and wondering what divorce would look like. I offer one-on-one coaching at every stage. If you're still in the relationship, if you're unsure if it's abuse, if you know it's abuse but you're having trouble understanding what that looks like, or what to do with it, I can help you name what's happening, start setting boundaries that work for you, and figure out what you need. If you're thinking about leaving, we'll explore what that might look like in a grounded and personalized way. If you're navigating divorce or custody or co-parenting with a high conflict person, I can help you document, strategize, and stay emotionally anchored, especially when you're being gaslit, discredited, and re-traumatized by the legal system. If you've already left and you're stuck in the trauma bond, or if you've been discarded and struggling to feel like yourself again, I can help you rebuild self-trust and reconnect with your own nervous system in a way that actually feels doable. Everything I do is highly personalized. I don't walk you through a one-size-fits-all program. I listen, I reflect, and I guide you based on what you're facing right now. And some people work with me through a one-time validation call, which is offered on my website, where we zero in on one issue you're struggling with and start to untangle it together. Others work with me on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, depending on what's going on in your specific situation. And this is especially helpful when healing from emotional abuse and also in divorce. If you're curious about starting, I offer a $25 intro call, which if you listen to my older episodes, I call it a clarity call. It did used to be free, and I talk about it at a later episode, but really a lot of people were no-showing to those calls, and that was taking away time from clients that I do work one-on-one with. And so if we move forward, I just take that fee and apply it to your first session. That intro call is just for us to get on the same page so you can share what's going on for you and I can share how I might be able to help. I only take a limited number of those calls per month because one-on-one coaching is the core of my work. Out of all these offerings that I have, one-on-one coaching is the thing that I do the most, and I do it 6 days a week most of the time, 5 to 6 days a week. And so if my calendar looks full and if there's not a time that you can get in, you can email me at jessicaknightcoaching.com, and I always try and make space where I can. And I may also always have a few openings from one-on-one client reschedules. You can also explore self-paced courses and toolkits at jessicaknight.thinkific.com, including Divorcing a Narcissist 101 and the Emotional Abuse Breakthrough course. I have a documentation course and my new signature program, Unhooked, which is a private podcast and course that walks you through the full cycle of abuse, helps you map it in your relationship and how to break it and how to begin to see what it really is that you're going through. If you want ongoing support in a more flexible way, you could always check out my Substack at jessicaknight.substack.com. Each month I focus on a different theme, from trauma bonding to divorce to cluster B to sexual coercion to emotional abuse to toxic breakups. Those are just some from this year. Paid members get access to monthly deep dives, master classes, Q&As, strategy kits, and I'm working on some more group options. There is also a free option and a monthly option. So please head over to Substack. The link is in my show notes. You also can just search Jessica Knight Coaching and I'll come up. Everything that I create is meant to help. My coaching, my writing, my courses, this podcast, it's built around the one truth that you're not crazy. You are conditioned to doubt your reality, and I want to help you change that and understand what you're going through. If you like this podcast, the best thing that you can do is subscribe and rate the episode 5 stars. You can find me on my websites, emotionalabusecoach.com and high-conflict divorcecoaching.com. All of the offerings that I just mentioned are also in the show notes below. Now let's get to the episode. Before I dive into today's episode, I just want to announce that it's still in the beginning phases, but I've launched a Patreon. The link is in the show notes. It's under You Are Not Crazy. Inside the Patreon, I'll be posting a bonus episode every month. I will be also doing a Q&A episode, and I'll be uploading all of the videos that I've ever had or podcasts I recorded that are not on my regular podcasts. I always thought that my Substack would be a place to have more of a membership. I did play around with other membership sites, but for the people that are looking for some deeper work and don't have a place to go for that, or maybe can't afford one-on-one coaching, this is a new offering that I'm going to have. And in the future, hopefully have some group calls too. If you follow my Substack, you've probably seen posts around trauma bonding this month, the month of August, because that has been my theme of the month, of really talking about and diving into the various aspects of trauma bonding. I'm recording this on a Wednesday in July, and it's 3:00 right now, Eastern. And by this point, I've already talked about trauma bonding, I would say between 6 and 8 client calls. If you're new here, maybe you found this episode by searching for trauma bonds. And so if that is true, I'm happy you're here. But because trauma bonding can be a buzzword, I want to give a bit of a disclaimer. Some of what I'm about to talk about today might land hard, not because it's harsh, but because I'm going to talk about where we do have control in a trauma bond, and that can bring up a lot of stuff. So I just want to be clear. If you've worked with me or followed me, you know I'm not someone who says just get over it, and that's not what this is. If I were that person, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to do this work because I lived through this. So I don't tell anybody anything that isn't compassionate and grounded in your experience. So I'm saying this with care. Please take what helps, leave what doesn't help. And if there's something in here that feels too raw to sit with right now, know that that's okay. Just come back when you're ready. Save it for later. Save it for a time where you might hear it. I know there's been so many times where I've heard things and I just could not hear it. And then later on, I heard it. But if you're listening to this, the intention around this podcast is for where we do have control in what we're going through, and not to say that we have control in the abuse that we're experiencing, but when we've identified that we're trauma bonded and if we're having trouble healing, to talk through where do we actually have some space. And so I want to start with something that's basic, because a lot of people won't call a trauma bond a trauma bond. Sometimes I wonder if that's because they don't want to really admit the abuse, or it's hard to see the abuse. And if you are saying it's a trauma bond, that directly connects to an abusive relationship. So that could be possible. And sometimes people don't understand it. But I've had a couple of people this week that they'll either say it in passing or say, well, I don't know. I don't know if it's a trauma bond. And I just want to start with the basics about what a trauma bond is and what it's not, because it's not that you went through trauma together. It's not shared grief or a mutual hard experience. Trauma bond is formed through intermittent reinforcement. It's moments of harm followed by moments of connection. It's abuse laced with breadcrumbs. It's why you feel confused, stuck, and pulled in opposite directions. You're not weak for staying in it, but you're caught in a cycle that your brain and your body
read as familiar, even though it might not be safe. And a lot of people, like I said, refuse to name it. They'll say, well, I guess it's a trauma bond, or I don't know. And sometimes they say nothing at all because naming it would mean facing it, or facing that maybe it wasn't the love that they experienced in the way that they experienced it. And if you can't say it yet, I get it. I really do. I've had moments where I didn't even want to use the term, but there is power in giving something a name, because once you name it, you can stop calling yourself crazy. You can stop saying, why can't I just get over this? And say, this isn't just a breakup, but I'm going through withdrawal right now. I'm healing from an addiction, because that's what it is. And I think if you are healing and if you're struggling, you might need to begin to treat the trauma bonding like an addiction, because most people don't want to treat it that way. If we do, everything has to change. Our choices have to change. Our access to the other person has to change. If I were healing from heroin, I wouldn't be scrolling the dealer's Instagram and trying to figure out where he is and what he's doing. I wouldn't be sleeping next to him. I wouldn't be keeping heroin in my cabinet just in case. I wouldn't be justifying one last time. And if we think about this with an addictive relationship, we can't sleep next to them. We can't justify one last text, closure. We think that's what we need to do because we're trying to feel the relief. We think about them all day and we try to decode what they mean. We try and predict how they'll respond, and we obsess over what they'll be doing and what they're not doing. And it's not because you're obsessive, it's because you're craving the relief. So I want to be clear about that. If your nervous system is in collapse and if your sleep is gone and you're just foggy, achy, exhausted, sick, that's what a trauma bond does to the body. It is physical and it's emotional and it is addictive. So if you treat it like healing an addiction, even gently, you start to actually begin to come back to yourself. And that's not by doing everything at once or going no contact tomorrow if you're not ready, but by asking yourself, what is one thing I can pull back from? What's one behavior I could change? And you could start small. You might mute their Instagram stories, or you might walk a different way. You might only check your messages at night or choose to only reply at night. You might make a rule. I don't reread old texts after 10 p.m. I'm not going to answer the phone when they call, but I'll respond in writing. You can start where you are with what feels possible right now. Because a lot of times we are very focused on them. And when you're constantly asking, what are they thinking? Why haven't they reached out? What did I do wrong? You're still trying to manage the relationship. You're still trying to fix it in some way. You're trying to feel better by focusing on them, because you probably think if you can understand them, or if they could understand you, or if they could even see how much you're trying and how much you care, that something might change. I work with a lot of clients that are really trying to make the other person see something. But the question actually isn't how do I make them see it? It's what would change if I made it visible to me. Even if they never get closure, even if you never get an apology, you still matter. So what change can you make that's visible to you? How can you actually take a step to understanding yourself more? And it doesn't have to be constant, because understanding them can be really helpful. Understanding them can be a way that you depersonalize it from feeling like it's you. But it also can be a way to contort yourself, and to remove the focus from yourself. So bringing some of that focus back, because you might be in your own way, and that doesn't mean it's your fault. It means you have more power than it feels like you do. It means you can start making some of those small decisions to come back to yourself, even in tiny ways. You might need to cancel plans, or you might need to go on the plans if you feel like you need that push. But to really look at where you may be stuck in a cycle and doing some things to try and break out of it. And if you're feeling like, well, I'm supposed to go on this vacation and I really don't want to go, but maybe I should go. Maybe go, but edit it. Go and don't have a plan. Go and just be in a new place. Go and journal the entire time that you're there. Find a way to make some of these things yours. You can ask yourself, what do you need that has nothing to do with them? because no one else can really pull you out. You have to start walking out, even if it's slow, even if it's 5 minutes a day, even if it's mostly in your head right now. And if you're trying to understand why you're feeling all these conflicting feelings, I have a lot of resources on trauma bonding, either on my Substack or on this podcast. And to begin to see what's going on, mapping out your cycle of abuse, which is something I talk about a lot, and to see where there's space, because I've certainly been in the space where I notice I'm keeping myself in the cycle where, like, the second I'm done with an activity, I'm on my computer and I'm trying to figure out, like, what about this behavior? What about that behavior? It helps to an extent, but it doesn't help forever. You don't need to understand them in order to heal. And sometimes, like I said, decoding the behaviors can be helpful, but you don't need to decode every behavior. You just need to try and start understanding yourself. And there, because there's a part of you that stayed, there's a part of you that knew something was off, a part of you that tried to fix it. And my hope is that this episode gives you something to hold on to. It gives you something else to hold on to. I remember in my story, I'd promised myself I wouldn't answer. And then when the message came and I replied anyway, it wasn't because I wanted to, it's because I felt that addiction too. But the more I created space, the better it felt over time. And so I hope that this was helpful in terms of really thinking about where you feel stuck. And like I said, the biggest thing that you can do is try and get yourself out of the loop. The loop of what are they thinking? Do they regret it? Did I cause this? Are they already with somebody else? You're focused on them, and because you had to the entire relationship. You tracked all their moves. You softened yourself. You bend and twisted to keep the peace. But that wasn't weakness within you. That was you having a strategy to survive what you were going through. Like I said, this is hard. I know it's hard. And if you need support, you always can reach out to me at emotionalabusecoach.com. You can join the Patreon. You can ask questions. And if you need support, if you feel stuck, I made a playlist of every episode on trauma bonding, and I put that in the show notes. So if you feel like you need to do a bit of a deep dive, I invite you to go there.